Welcome to the Entrepreneurial Blueprint Podcast. Real people, real stories. Chasing dreams, overcoming obstacles. Come get inspired and take action. I know you ready. Let's go.
Welcome back to the Entrepreneurial Blueprint. Super excited about our guest today. We have Corey Combs down in the great state of Florida. How you doing, Corey?
Doing well, man. Did I see my man Randy Hurtado on the intro there?
Yes, you did. Yeah,
Love Randy, man. Great guy.
We only invite the biggest, the baddest, and the best, and folks that really have a story to tell. And Randy was definitely one of them. So,
Cool.
But we definitely appreciate you for taking the time to sit with us today. And what I'll do is I will leave the floor to you, to any of our viewers who don't know who Corey Combs is. Just a little quick, 60 to 90 second introduction on yourself.
I'm Corey Combs. I'm the owner and founder of South Shore Roofing and Exteriors, and I actually also acquired another company last year, which was Jerry's Roofing out of Brandon, Florida. So we're based out of Tampa, and I'm a glutton for punishment. I'm a lifelong contractor. I've been in the industry since 1994. Started as a shingler. I started on a tear-off crew. Then I got into shingling and learned roofing, and have just worked in construction my entire career. And so the next logical step after, was it 2018, when I got tired of working for people, was just opening my own company. So in 2019 I did, and it's been a meteoric rise since then, and brought both companies to 8 figures in a real short period of time. So that's a little bit about who I am. I've worn a tool belt. I've answered the phones. I've done pretty much everything in a construction business, man. So know it inside and out.
Love it. Yeah, thanks for that little brief introduction. Yeah, you are an industry savant too, in my mind. That's what comes to my mind when I think about Corey Combs. A lot of the folks that I know in the industry who know you, you're a doer, you're a grinder, and you're results driven. So I think your results speak for itself. I mean, 8 figures is something to be proud of. So very good. Now let's get into the early stages. I mean, you're on a roof, you're doing shingles, and you're working for someone else who's cutting your check. What goes through your mind when you're saying, I need to take the risk to become an entrepreneur and just trust in myself day in and day out, and not really rely on someone to tell me what to do, but now I'm going to take the reins and I'm going to build a business from the ground up to be successful?
It was an interesting journey. When I was actually installing, I don't think I had really aspirations of doing anything on my own. It was more, I was just working to survive. I wasn't making the best life choices, and we'll leave it at that. But it wasn't until I got into sales that I was working for a really large remodeling company, and they had an on-staff. She was an on-staff architect. She was actually from the state of Florida. I was working for a company up in Buffalo, New York. We were both working for him. So it was kind of, we became really good friends. We were both from Florida. We were both working for this company up in Buffalo, New York. And I was doing really, really well in sales. I had come from another company, actually 2 companies before that. I was doing sales. I was the top producer. And so being a commission-only salesperson really helped me understand and get comfortable with the risk of starting at zero every month. Mm-hmm. And so that really prepped me to be able to okay, I can actually do this for myself. Why not? I mean, I'm not making any money unless I perform for this company. So why not bet on myself and do it for myself? So that architect, I'll be forever grateful for her. She just used to always tell me, she's like, you need to go work for yourself. You need to go work for yourself. And so she kind of pushed me to do that. And so that's kind of how the entrepreneurial journey started, was just the owner of the company, which I did really well for, screwed me out of some commissions. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go do my own thing, man.
It takes that. It takes just that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good. Now it takes just that too. It takes someone to show us that, you know what, you care, but you don't care enough about me, right? So therefore, it's time for me to care about myself. Did you have any mentors in the industry at that point in time, or did you go out and find mentors after you put yourself in that seat?
That is a really, really good question. My mentors were all books and podcasts and YouTube videos and anything that I could get. We're really lucky because right now we have all this information with the internet. And so I knew that I was going to have to be hungry to learn because there was a lot of stuff that I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
And luckily, there were a lot of things that I did know. So I knew the installation, I knew the production side of things really, really well, which helped tremendously. And I also knew the sales side of everything really well because that's what I did for years. And what I didn't know was the business side of things. What I didn't know was, what charts of accounts were, how to look at my P&L, how to take my job costing, because I knew how to job cost. I understood that because that's how I got paid on my commission. So I understood job costing, but I didn't know how to take that job costing and plug it into my overhead and how to split my overhead out and, all of those things from a financial perspective. And so I just read a lot and I just listened to a lot of podcasts. And then I started going to industry events and I started meeting some really good people in the industry and just became friends with them and just asked them questions. And some of them I'm very close with today. We've helped each other out. A couple of them opened up businesses in Florida from other states, and they would call me every day like, hey, what do we do here? What do we do here? So it was really kind of great because I sort of was able to give back to the people that were mentoring me in real time. And I think having a perspective of just being curious and wanting to learn and not being teachable and not having that ego has really served me well.
Very good. Very good. That makes a lot of sense to me, man. And it really hits home because I'm a big advocator of these events within the industry. And as long as you keep showing up and asking questions, we build this brotherhood or brother and sisterhood, because there's women in roofing as well, that want to help one another. But a lot of guys who don't know their numbers, because I think that's the make or break in this industry is knowing your numbers and cash flow.
That's right.
It's not about putting the roof up, right?
That's right.
It is understanding the process, but at the end of the day, it's all about knowing your numbers and cash flow. So many guys talk about revenue, but how much money did you bring home? And if you don't know that number, they tend to know the revenue number and they inflate that. Yeah. And then the bottom line, they're scrambling a little bit. Well, then guess what? You don't know your numbers. Okay. Yeah. And that will be the single piece that will hold you from scaling. But going back to the events, I think a lot of these contractors that are out there nationally, from what I've seen, who aren't there or not showing up, they're like, I don't need a vacation. I don't need a drinking fest and this, that, and a third. You're looking for all the negatives. There's so many positives that you're missing.
Yeah.
And if you're not there and continuously showing up, I don't think you're bettering your business. I think you're pretty stagnant. So kudos to the folks that, like yourself, that keep showing up, keep wanting to learn. All you need to take is one or two things back to the nest and implement. Your business will continue to grow. If you sit in your local community and you keep doing the same thing over and over, you're running a good business, maybe, but you're not advancing yourself forward. So just keep showing up, keep talking, keep networking to build relationships, whether it's suppliers, manufacturers, vendors, other contractors. We all want to help each other as long as you're not in our market.
I'll piggyback a little bit on that if that's okay.
Yeah.
I don't. So I actually do. I go out and I network and I meet with guys and I do some consulting and some training as well. And I tell people, look, I'm going to do my thing, right? And I'm going to try to win at the kitchen table. I don't care who's there, So I'm okay with, networking with people in my market and teaching and helping them grow. Because what I've learned, Lester, is that some of these smaller guys, they're really, really, really grateful when you take the time to sort of help them work through some of their problems.
Mm-hmm.
They'll bring me jobs that they can't handle. So I had one guy, we JV'd on a $500,000 roofing job because they couldn't do it. And so I've had some of them bail me out when we get super busy and I'm like, look, I need some help here. So it really works if you don't have that scarcity and negative mindset.
Correct.
And if you're like, look, we're all going to eat, and you approach life that way, I think it really, really just makes for a better overall like business, because you're right. We do want to help each other out. Most of the people that I've met in this industry have been amazing people. And yeah, that's how it works, man. Just be of service and be open. And I think a lot of times what you give out is what you're going to get back.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I was more so talking about the contractors that are looking at these events, because they look at their local competition as you know, they don't want to be involved in. But what we preach in our network is just that, in collaboration, because opportunities will present themselves as we are solving problems together. Let's talk about this. In your opinion and your experience, what all goes into, all right, I'm just starting a roofing business today. I realize this is my path and this is where I want to put all my time and my energy. Nobody knows me. What goes into starting to build your brand at the early stages of building your business?
I love that you asked this question. I'm going to preface this with, I think there's this idea in our industry that what you don't know, you can hire out, or what you don't know, you can bring people in to fill those gaps. And I think that you can't do that for a couple different reasons, unless you absolutely know everything that goes into your business. I'm not saying you have to be an expert. You don't have to be an expert at marketing, but you better know how to track your conversions, your marketing spend, and what your ROI is on it, so you can see if your marketing company is going to perform. You don't have to be a sales expert, but you better know what sets you apart, your company core values, and what you want your sales team to convey to the homeowner so they represent your brand. And you better know how to track, train, and manage whoever's running your sales team.
That's right.
Okay. You don't have to be a CFO, but you better understand your numbers at least at a level, so that when you look at your financial reports, you'll know if things are off, so you can dig into things with your CFO or your accountant. Mm-hmm. That's what I mean by you better at least understand every component of your business so you don't get taken advantage of. So that's the first thing that I want to say. The second thing that I want to say is, I'll use my experience. So I worked for the last company that I worked for. They were a big company. They were really well known in their market. They had been around for 30 years. What kind of revenue are we talking about? So this was 2012, 2013. So they were doing 15 to 17 million, which was a lot then, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so you were able to rely on their reputation. Now, they were the most expensive in the market for sure, but it was, when you went out there, they knew that they were expensive. So people called and knew you were going to be more money, but they had the reputation to back it up. And so when I went out on my own, I was a little terrified, because I'm like, look, I don't have any Google reviews. I don't have a reputation. Mm-hmm. I don't have any of this. What am I going to do? Mm-hmm. And so what I figured out is I just looked at things from the homeowner's perspective and said, okay, what do I want as a homeowner? What would I want as a homeowner? Well, I would want somebody that cares, that's conscientious, that's going to be around, that communicates well, that does all of those things. That's kind of the anti-contractor. And so those are the conversations I'm going to have at the kitchen table with my prospects. I'm going to be your guy. I'm going to be the guy that's diving in the bushes if all the nails aren't cleaned up by the crew. I'm going to be the guy that walks around the house and makes sure that you're job is 100% the way that you want it. I'm going to be the guy to climb up on your roof, make sure everything's done so you keep your warranties from the manufacturer. I'm going to be your guy. You call me, I'm going to answer the phone. That was my pitch. And it worked out really, really well. And so that was all my conversations at the kitchen table. We didn't talk about time in business. We didn't talk about reputation. We didn't talk about reviews. That was my pitch that was my value pitch to them. Right?
Sure.
And so that's what I would tell people. When you're starting a business, make sure you understand every facet of it. So there's 4 pillars of a construction business. There's sales, there's build, there's collecting, which is your financials, and then there's retention. So those are the 4 pillars: sell, build, collect, retain.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know those 4 pillars, learn them, because that's what you're going to need to know to run a construction company. And then understand what your value is and be able to clearly convey that to your homeowners. And if you can do those 2 things, you have a really good shot at starting a good business.
I love it. I love it. It's sales, build, collections, retention, in that order.
That's it.
Very good. Very good. Now that's great perspective. And I know that any viewers in that type of position can relate, and then hopefully take that and implement, because that's the next step. We can learn all we want, but what we do next with that information is on us, and we have to own that and accountability. And it's not just about us. It's about anyone who's representing your brand and out there in that local community. So you do have to build those steps, and people have to believe in them to achieve what you're looking to do. So I appreciate that. Let's talk about the first step of building a sales team and culture. If you were to start your company over today with the information that you know, and I'm sure the failures that you have felt, what's the first step in building a sales team and then implementing a culture that is one that is purposeful and can last?
Oddly enough, I did have this happen in September, because I acquired that other company and they didn't have a sales team. And so I basically had to start from scratch. I had to hire, I had to train, and all of that stuff. Luckily, I had a really super solid blueprint that I was able to just kind of plug into that company. And so I think the first thing that I would do if I were going to start all over is I would have to figure out what that role looks like, because in a small company, those roles are going to be different than in a larger company. So I'll give you a good example. In smaller companies, a lot of times they'll have what they consider like a PM or a project manager. That project manager will do sales. That project manager will order materials, and sometimes they'll collect checks, and they'll do a lot of things that are not sales related. So the first thing I would do is I would figure out what I want from that role and what those responsibilities are for that role before I hire anybody. Then the second thing that I would figure out is, how am I going to track their productivity? All right. It's the activities we know that make people successful. So if we come up with the role, we have those responsibilities. Now we have to track what we consider success of those responsibilities. And then the third thing is I would figure out how I'm going to manage and train them, because we know that, we have these expectations that people are going to just do things the way that we want them, or somehow take the responsibility or the perspective as we do as owners, but they don't. We know that that's not true. That's not the case. So if you can at least put together a quick role and responsibilities, how you're going to define success, and then how you're going to track and manage them. And it doesn't have to be super, super, super detailed, but at least that will help them understand what they need to do. That'll help you understand how you're going to define success in their role, and they'll understand that too. And now you'll both be on the same page, And when they're not doing what you ask, you have something to go back to, and you have a way to train them.
Mm-hmm.
That's really it. I mean, the problem, you just said something earlier that is so critical for people to understand. It's not the information. The information's out there. It's the execution on the information. That's the secret sauce. So if you make it nice and simple, if you actually come up with it yourself and you don't just plug it into ChatGPT and try to take the easy way out, if you actually think through it,
Mm-hmm.
it makes it so much easier, because now you've put some time in it, and you understand what you need that person to accomplish, and it's much easier for you to teach and train that person down the road. And then the second thing is you need to make sure that you have the time for the training, the time for the non-revenue generating activities. You have time for those so that you can make that person successful in your organization. Because I think that's another place where owners really miss the boat. They're so busy, they don't have time, and then they get frustrated, and then now they're throwing money away, and they got to fire that person because that person's not doing what they're supposed to.
Yep. Understand. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good. What is your philosophy around, and we'll talk about sales, folks. What's your philosophy around compensation and then identifying high performers and developing them?
There's a couple of things there. So we'll start with the first one, which is compensation.
Okay.
I have not seen the profit sharing model work long term for any large scale company that is building a local brand that's trying to grow. And the rev share model would be the 10-50-50 type model, right? It's just, you can't split your profit 50-50 with a sales rep only taking 10% overhead off. It just, the numbers usually don't work, especially if you're marketing, you have overhead, you grow, you have insurances. It doesn't scale. When you're smaller, it can work, but there's no growth that can happen on the 10-50-50 model. That's my opinion. I know the numbers pretty well. I know a lot of people much smarter than I am, and we've had this conversation in and out. And your overhead, when you're a larger company operating correctly, and your marketing and your advertising and all that, your overhead is closer to 15%, somewhere around there. Okay, so my thoughts on compensation is you need to figure out what your numbers are and what you can afford for commissions based on what your goals are for that particular year and going forward. So it comes back to knowing your numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you need to know what your growth percentage is going to be, and you need to know what your current overhead is. And so there you can budget for that, and then you can pay based on that. Sometimes in the beginning, you're going to have to pay more money to help grow your company. Everybody understands that. But what you can't do is you can't just go across the board and say, oh, well, this guy pays 10-50-50, so that's going to work for everybody. It doesn't work. The other thing I'm going to say about compensation, you don't have to compensate everybody the same. Reps that bring more to the table, more experience, that are higher performers and all that stuff, they can get paid more money. I mean, it's a meritocracy. That's how it works. So if you're a newer rep and you're going to take more hand-holding, you're going to make more mistakes, you're going to cost the company more money, you're going to make less. That's just the way that it is. So you don't have to have a one-size-fits-all comp structure. You need to know your numbers so that you can really realistically understand what you can pay in terms of commissions. And then the third thing is you've got to have a path for them to be able to make more money. So you can't just say, oh, I'm going to pay you a percentage of gross, and that's going to be what you're getting paid forever. So I would structure things a little bit differently. Maybe have an entry-level rep, have an intermediate rep, and then have a senior rep. And then you can also have like a lead, like a team lead or somebody like that helps with some of the training duties or some of the site duty, or coaching or training or whatever with the sales team, so that your top performer might have a path again to make more money. So you need to figure out how you can structure your pay so that you attract high performers and you retain them. And then you've got a path for entry-level reps to kind of grow and continue on that path to later on. And then once they've been with you for a while, you're going to have to look at incentives and bonuses and things like that. So it's got to be a well thought out way for them to continue to grow, or they're going to chase the grass is greener somewhere else where they think they can make more money.
Absolutely love it.
Yep.
You're hitting every nail on the head there for me. Very good. Very good. Going to pivot a little bit. Let's pivot to what's buzzing around the industry. I mean, I'm thankful, to be super honest, because private equity, roofing and exteriors as a whole, is the #1 sought out industry.
Yeah.
Which leaves an immense amount of opportunity for people that either one are in the industry or two know business.
Yeah.
And there are a ton of guys that have both already inside the industry, but I know they got to be banging on your door. Let's talk about that a little bit. Like, what goes through your mind when you think about private equity and being in the position that you're in the industry that we love?
Yeah. So I just want to digress a little bit and go back. So you asked comp structure and then retention. I think the other really important part that I see a lot of company owners really struggle with is the management of their sales team and how they track, continually train, and how they manage performance. This is a big one, and I think it's frustrating for the rep. And I've been in this situation myself, and it's really colored how I operate my sales team. But you're not doing really well one month, and then you do, your previous months have been outstanding. In that 1 month, your sales manager is like, "Hey, what's the problem? Why are your numbers trash?"
Mm-hmm.
Then there's no support. There's no, "Hey, what can we do to
Improve.
Make sure that you're hitting your goals," or whatever. And so it gets frustrating for the rep because it's like, "Oh, well, I have one down month and they want to start breaking my balls. But what about all these other months? Oh, and the fact that I'm their top performer by a lot every single year."
It happens in every industry. Keep going.
Right. And so, we kind of took a holistic approach where we look at things on a rolling 90-day average. So we'll look at the prior 3 months. And so we'll average out the prior 3 months so we can see what their close rate is. We can see what their revenue is. We can see, all of those things to make sure that we look at things fairly and in aggregate. Now, at that rolling 90 days, if their numbers are really low, and we look at another month and their numbers are really low, now we have some data that shows, okay, we got a problem here. And it might be time for a serious performance improvement plan, or, hey, it might be time to part ways here because, something's going on. And then the other thing is, making sure you spend time with your team, having the right sales meetings, having the right monthly check-ins is a big one. Sitting down, actually going through their numbers, listening to their feedback, figuring out how they're doing on a personal level, all of those things. And then really investing back into your team, right? Spending money on leads, spending money on training, spending time and money on doing activities like team building activities, things like that. Like, all of those things are going to help with your retention because the people know that you're invested in them. Mm-hmm. So if they know you're invested in them, then they'll invest and they'll fight for the company. But if they feel like they're just a number, which I've been in this situation, they feel like, oh, the minute I stop performing, now I'm expendable, then why wouldn't I go somewhere else where I'm going to be treated better, or at least I can make more money?
That's where the trust is built or lost.
That's it. That's where your trust is built or lost. So if you figure out a way to track, train, and manage your team in a way that's mutually beneficial for you and the rep, it's just so much better for everybody.
Agreed.
Yeah. So
Agreed.
I just wanted to throw that out there because I think this is where we really drop the ball a lot in this industry, man. Like a lot.
Yeah, I agree. And again, going back to PE, and I think what attracts them most is they see the areas where they can come in and bring big business and improve. It will lead to bigger revenues, right? Yeah. So again, that's the opportunity I speak of. There's a lot of bait being thrown out there right now. It's super attractive because it is a fragmented industry that has a lot of room for improvement that we're about to go through, but it's extremely lucrative. The returns are immense. Yep. You know, a lot of guys that I met in the industry never even went to college, and they're running $1 million businesses.
I have a ninth grade education, man. So
you know, so yeah, private equity to me sees they're like sharks in the water, but they want to improve it. So it's not necessarily a bad thing, but we do know PE means dollars, and that's what it's about. But yeah, so we'll see what happens with that as we go. But I think we can all feel in the industry things are getting a little bit tighter, and then they're going to start to get smarter, and that's going to produce big returns. The last piece that I want to touch on here is technology.
Well, we PE. So let's talk a little bit about PE, right? I actually think PE coming into the construction industry is a good thing. And the reason I think it's a good thing is because it's going to force mid-sized companies like mine to run better, run smarter, and run more efficiently. And these PE companies, they're spending a lot of money to acquire these brands and these companies. Because they're spending so much money, they've got investors, they've got boards, they've got everybody that they've got to start to recoup that money. Now, yes, the idea is that they're going to get it on the next exit, where they're going to take this large group and they're going to sell it to a bigger group, and there's going to be another consolidation. And you know what's happening in the meantime is, and I've seen it in my market, and we love it. I mean, there's a couple companies that we go against that I'm like, I am so glad they're in the home, because they're selling for 20% higher, 30% higher than what we are. We have a better sales process. We have just as many or more 5-star reviews. We're better trained, and we have a really good customer experience. So we can go in there and look like shining stars, because it's like, wait, you're getting the same or better service and you're paying 20% less. So I think there's a huge opportunity for companies, the mid-sized companies, to really shine in the market. They don't need to be scared. I mean, look, we spend a ton of money on marketing. Like, in January, we spent $123,000 on marketing, right?
And how many roofs are you doing a year currently?
So
just a ballpark.
We were probably doing 50 to 70 roofs a month. Okay. So, that's kind of where we were at. And so there's an opportunity for mid-market companies to really, really shine with PE coming. I know a lot of people are terrified, but I think it's an opportunity. I really, really do. And so I would just encourage these companies, like, be really good with, know your numbers, know your cash flow, know all that stuff. Have a good sales process. You have to have a really good sales process. You've got to be able to speak a language to homeowners, because look, if you leave it up to price, then you're going to get priced out, right?
Right.
So if you say, okay, well, I'm cheaper than this PE firm, but I'm not as cheap as these other guys. Well, if you leave it to price, then you've leveled the playing field. Why wouldn't they go with your cheaper competitor? Okay. So have a really good sales process, understand how the homeowner actually evaluates buying from us as contractors, tailor your sales process and pitch to that. And then make sure your team is really well technically trained so that you cover all your bases and you're just gonna knock it out of the park. Because they use eerie home type sales pitches where it's like, hey, we're gonna start way up here and then we're gonna do the old used car negotiation. And then, oh, if you still don't want to buy, then I'm gonna call my manager and see what we can do for you. And look, it's successful, but it's not as successful is if you have a really good, low pressure, really consultative, just phenomenal sales process.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, as I mentioned, ton of opportunity. It's good. You got to embrace it while it's here. We all do know that private equity comes and it goes. It's like a storm, right? It comes in, it does its thing, and then you got to figure out the rest after that. But I think it's here for a while, so we need to just be mindful of strategic ways where we can benefit from it. And I'm actually seeing a lot of it from guys that are at the mid-level. They're talking about EBITDA. In 2018, there's not one roofer alive that would know how to spell EBITDA.
Yeah, nobody knew what EBITDA was. Nobody knew what seller discretionary earnings were. Nobody knew what their net profit percentages were. So I think it's a good thing because people are becoming more educated on what they need to do. Yeah, I agree with you, man.
Yeah, so just be mindful. They're here and take what you can from that and get to where you want to go. We all have our own goals. We'll talk about that when we wrap this up in a few, but personal goals drive business goals. So we all have somewhere we want to be at the next level of life, or some of us want to build a legacy that we can pass that down and the next generation can continue, hopefully, to understand the vision and the passion, the mission behind that to continue that forward. Because things are ever evolving, and I think that leads right into my last topic of discussion, and that's technology. We talk about knowing your numbers. We talk about SOPs. We talk about automations and workflow. You were in it in the thick of the change when we're starting to talk about pen and paper, then Excel file, then, okay, I got a CRM, and now you got measurement reports. Now you got all these things. It has happened so fast. And, we live in this world and we believe in it because we know it's a tool that if we use it the right way, it helps. Talk about technology, talk about, going from, you started a business, you got to 2 million, you got to 5, you got to 10, you're at where you're at today. What place did technology play in your growth?
Oh, it was huge. I mean, well, I did estimates back in the day where we had these manufacturer price books, right? Like we had these thick price books that we would get every single year. And, we would sit down and we would flip through and we would find the materials. And I mean, it was crazy. Like that's how you did your estimates, right? There was no going to Home Depot. There was no looking on, the internet. There was no CRM. There was none of that. And then it grew into, we started making these Microsoft Word templates with the pricing in it and, all of this. And then it morphed into, there was a company called Clear Estimates. They were like one of the first, you remember them, right? Yeah. They were like one of the first that came out with like a really good estimating platform. And then it just kind of grew after that. And having something like, and actually when I opened up South Shore, I did a lot of homework. I mean, I went with Builder, I did Builder Trend, I did Co-Construct, I did Cloud Construct. I demoed all of them. And I demoed JP. And I saw JP and I was like, wow, man, this works really, really well. And so, and Pete, we were talking about Peter, he was the guy that did, no, he didn't do the demo, but he was my onboarding coach, right? I was like, holy crap, man, this saved me a ton of time because I built out all my templates and I could just go in there, slam my measurement reports and my measurements in there. Eagle View was pretty much the only measurement report that anybody used at the time.
You had Sky Measure, but that one kind of floated off. It was Eagle View and Sky Measure.
Yeah, well, yeah, you had Sky Measure, and then Roof Snap came along, but it didn't really work that great. And so now, like, technology has evolved in the last 5 years, man. Holy cow! Mm-hmm. We just had a meeting earlier before we did this podcast, and we were talking about like our speed to lead has to get better because people are no longer waiting for that. They're not going to wait for a callback. They want to get somebody right then and there. They want to book their appointment or whatever it is. And that's it. That's how it's got to be. So we're moving to AI agents. We're moving to, all of that stuff. So we've actually already got that built out, and we're building out even better, more robust instant booking tools because people aren't going to wait.
Nope.
So, yeah, and those instant booking tools have to seamlessly integrate with your CRM. So they create the record, they create the appointment for your sales rep. And I think the next iteration here is AI tools that are going to be able to extract things from workflows in order for you to be able to change and manage how your workflows go. So all that to say this, it's really, really good from a productivity standpoint. It's really good from a cost and overhead standpoint because you can do a lot more with less people. And but from an employment standpoint, I think it's not going to be great because we're going to be able to get all of the things that we need from this technology and these automations. And it's going to take human error out of it. Like our follow-up sequences that are done by our AI bots right now, like they do them all hours of the day and they don't forget to do it.
It is amazing. It's only going to get bigger, stronger, faster. They are tools. So they
right.
don't
Yeah.
necessarily replace people, but they will minimize some need. And then they also will give those high achievers the tools to be even better. And it's amazing, and it's only going to get faster, but it's only going to help improve the way we communicate, the way we collaborate, and the way we serve people. You had said something. You said, people want someone to pick up right away. They've already, the homeowners have access to all this data that we speak about, reviews, ratings, what people are saying about you before they even call you. They already made their decision that they would purchase from you or purchase from someone else.
Right.
So whoever picks up that phone will win my business.
They're just going to go to the next, go to the next, go to the next. Yeah.
Well, they already did it, right? So if I'm a homeowner today, personally, there are some folks that don't do these things, but the Amazonification of things, we want to go. I want to check out the 4 or 5 companies that are in my market. I want to see their ratings. I want to see their reviews. I want to see if I can trust them, what people are saying about them. And then I want to say, okay, these are my top 2 choices. I'm going to write phone numbers down, and then I'm going to call. And whoever picks up first, I'm ready to buy. Not to say that they're necessarily not going to dive deeper into the discovery of purchasing, but whoever picks up the phone is probably going to win. So you got to be prepared for that.
I think the other thing too that we need to address is this heavy use of OpenAI, ChatGPT, and people going in and creating things with OpenAI. And you hit the nail on the head. It's a tool. It's a tool to augment what we know and do well already. It's not going to do it for you. If you don't understand the outcome and the goals, and you don't at least have a really good understanding of the roadmap to get there, you're not going to build something, or you're not going to get something out of these tools that's really meaningful, and you're not going to get the full use out of them. I mean, you can, there was a recently somebody, and I'm not going to say who it is, but they've been in the industry for a couple of years. I know when they got into the industry, and they kept posting in the roofing forums that they were going to write this sales book. And some of the things that they put in the post, I'm reading it, and I messaged them outside of it, and I said, look, I'm not trying to be a jerk here,
Sure.
but you can tell what you're posting came straight out of ChatGPT.
Yeah.
And more than that, like what it's saying isn't necessarily correct. So before you decide to write this book, maybe revise your information based on real world and how our industry actually operates, and not just what ChatGPT is spitting out. And I said, again, I'm not trying to be a jerk. I'm just giving you my perspective. And they pulled down all their posts because it's people can pick up on it. It's so glaringly clear when somebody doesn't have a full command of the information or the outcome, and they try to build something with these AI tools. And so my advice is, don't do that to your customers. Don't do that to your company. Like, learn this stuff and then use the AI tools as they're intended, as a tool, not to do it for you.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more. We're going to see, really ChatGPT is the new Google, right?
It is.
It's doing way much more than Google, because it's organizing all the things that you would want it to say. It just says it in a much more beautiful way. Actually kind of perfect, but you still have to feed that thing, or else it can't talk to itself yet.
Right. It's getting there.
It's getting there. Hopefully not, but we'll see.
Yeah.
We just have to all know what we signed up for, and that's that. All right, we're going to wrap this up. Before we do, I want to talk about some of your personal as well as your business goals. Like, what are you after, let's say, this year to wrap it up, but more so in the next 5 years? What are you chasing?
I've thought a lot about this year. I'm going to give you a long-winded answer. I was on a flight a few months ago. I was on a flight and I was watching this Netflix series called Chef's Table. I love cooking. I love, that's kind of like my second passion. I love to cook. I love making everything from scratch. Yeah. I mean, I love it. And I was watching this thing called Chef's Table, and there's this chef, his name's Evan Funk, and his whole claim to fame is he does handmade pastas. So every pasta he makes is hand-rolled dough, handmade, like there's no machines, there's no nothing, right? It's all handmade. And just listening to him talk about the passion and the love and the joy of his journey from learning this, and then his homage to the people that taught him to the success of his restaurant, it really got me thinking, like, what really brings me joy? Like what am I super, super passionate about? What brings me joy? And I thought the entire weekend, I thought about that, and I prayed about it and all this stuff. And it came to me, what really brings me joy? I love being of service to others. I love helping people. Like that is my passion. I love teaching people. I love helping people. And so my goal is to get to a place where I can do that full time. And I'm not just talking about, it being monetized. I'm talking about like me being able to share my experience, my life, with other people in our industry, whether it's paid or not. That's really what I want to do. So that brings me joy. It really does. When you help somebody dig themselves out of a hole, or they get concepts and it changes their business and they make more money and it changes their family's life, that brings me joy. That brings me purpose and fulfillment. So that's my goal over the next 5 years.
I love it, man. I love it. That's what that logo behind me, that JP, that's exactly what that represents. I know Pete, you built a relationship with him. You got the right guy in the horn when you were looking to, you know, have someone guide you into how your system should work for your business. Pete is one of the best. But that was our culture. We at Job Progress, we offered a CRM, business management software is what we considered it. It ran your business. CRM was just an acronym that contractors could relate to. But it was getting the early morning text or the late night text from contractors like yourself, and it was their growth and showing us, you know, they're progressing their families, or they bought that boat or that beach house. Some of their personal goals they were accomplishing through our platform and our assistance, right? And I think that's why we grew so fast, is because there was no numbers. This is not a meat line.
It was passion. It was the passion behind the project. Yeah.
It was the passion behind the project. We wanted to help you. We wanted you to succeed, and we would stop at nothing. We wouldn't just help you with our software. We'd help you with any other piece of software that was integrated with us. And if we could do something to be the solution to your problem, I think that's why we grew at the rate that we did. And it's all about having that passion and that purpose that really accelerates growth. And that growth can be in business, or that growth can be professionally.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just helping people, man. So I appreciate you.
Yeah.
Before we go, we ask this of all of our guests: if you can leave the viewers with one piece of advice that are right now feeling stuck. They're a $3 million company. They've been a $3 million company for the past 4 years, and they're trying to get to that next level. Like, what piece of advice could you give them to get to the next steps of their growth in business and professionally?
Don't quit before the miracle happens. I mean, you know, sometimes you just got to bring the body and the mind will follow. Even when you don't feel like it, you don't want to do it, you're getting your ass kicked, and you just don't see a way out. Just don't quit before the miracle happens. I think there's a real benefit to discipline and to being a person that will stick to something. So many people just throw their hands up and give up, you know, when they're frustrated and they don't know where to go next, and then they quit. And so the growth is in the struggle, as long as you use the struggle to learn from. And so that is really kind of my biggest piece of advice, man. Was when things are hard, look for the lesson, don't quit, and just keep going.
Very good. Yeah, no, that hits home. That hits home in a number of different ways, because I can remember those moments, and just that tidbit right there would get someone through. So once again, thanks for joining us. What we'll do, we like to bring people back 12 months after being on. So we look forward to checking in with you to see where you're at in the future. And we know you're only going up, so keep pushing forward.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Have a good one.
Yeah, you too.